Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News, an Indian perspective on All India Radio. This is Ramya bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi unveils developmental projects worth about 50,000 crore rupees in Karnataka and Maharashtra. New Delhi is taking synchronized policy action to develop low-carbon ecosystem, says New and Renewable Energy Minister R.K. Singh at the World Economic Forum in Davos. New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern resigns. New Delhi condemns and takes up vandalism of Hindu temples with the Australian government. India at UN says reform of multilateral institutions is urgently required. India and Oman to work together to fight menace of terrorism. And in FIH Hockey Men's World Cup, India defeat Wales 4-2 at Kalinga Stadium in Bhubaneswar. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi laid foundation stones of and dedicated various developmental projects worth about 50,000 crore rupees in Karnataka and Maharashtra on Friday. Addressing a rally at the MMRDA grounds at Bandra Kurla complex in Mumbai after inaugurating and laying the foundation stones of projects worth nearly 40,000 crore rupees, Mr. Modi said BJP and the NDA government have never created hurdles in the path of developmental works. He reassured the people of Mumbai that there is no scarcity of funds for developmental works in the city. Mr. Modi said funds allocated for such works should be used appropriately. The Prime Minister gave away Swanidhi certificates to hawkers and urged them to make digital payments.
लाभार्थियों को डिजिटल लेन देन की ट्रेनिंग के लिए मुंबई में 350 कैंप लगाए गए, जिसके चलते हमारे रेहड़ी पटरी वाले हजारों साथी डिजिटल लेन देन शुरू कर चुके हैं. देश भर में स्वनिधि योजना के लाभार्थियों ने करीब 50,000 करोड़ रुपए का डिजिटल ट्रांजैक्शन किया है.
In Karnataka, the Prime Minister declared Banjara Tandas as revenue villages at a function in Malkhed village of Kalburgi district. By giving the revenue village status to the Tandas of Banjaras, the inhabitants will now get basic infrastructure like water, electricity, toilets and houses under several welfare schemes. Mr. Modi said the empowerment and welfare of deprived sections of society has been the government's priority. The Prime Minister also launched the distribution of title deeds for the houses of the Banjara and Lambani communities. In total, 52,072 title deeds were given to the community living in over 3,000 tandas in the districts of Kalburgi, Vijayapura, Yadgiri and Raichur.
50,000 से अधिक परिवारों को पहली बार उनके घर, उनकी रिहाइश का हक मिला, हक्कू पत्र मिला है. ये कर्नाटका में तांडा बस्तियों में रहने वाले हजारों साथियों, गुमन परिवारों के बेटे बेटियों के उज्जवल भविष्य को सुनिश्चित करने वाला है.
Earlier in the day, Mr. Modi inaugurated Nayanpur Left Bank Canal with a modern irrigation system at Yadgiri in North Karnataka. The project is implemented at a cost of 4,699 crore rupees. It will help irrigate over 5 lakh hectares in the backward regions of Yadgiri, Raichur and Kalburgi. The Prime Minister also laid the foundation stone of 4 other road and multi-village drinking water projects worth 10,863 crore rupees. Power and New and Renewable Energy Minister R.K. Singh has stressed that India is taking synchronized policy action to develop a low-carbon ecosystem in the energy sector. He was speaking today at the Country Strategy Dialogue organized by the World Economic Forum in Davos. In the forum, Mr. Singh highlighted India's achievements in the power and renewable energy sectors. He described India's roadmap for green hydrogen and 500 renewable energy capacity by 2030. Mr. Singh also talked about the round-the-clock renewal of energy power, transmission augmentation and investment opportunities in these areas. The minister said that India strongly placed the policy action being taken to reduce carbon emissions under India's voluntary commitment. In today's Hotspot section, we bring you a news commentary on India at World Economic Forum 2023.
The World Economic Forum WEF annual meeting at Davos has long brought together the world's top politicians, business, academic, youth and civil society leaders to engage in addressing the most pressing issues on the global, regional and industry agendas. In celebration of India's Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, 75 years of independence and the assumption of India's G20 presidency, Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade DPIIT has strengthened India's presence at this year's WEF in Davos for all global investors looking to make a home in India, one of the world's most liberal investment destinations. The objective is to showcase a consolidated India presence with the centre and states while projecting India as a strong, resilient economy acting as a problem solver at the global stage. Robust structural reforms have strengthened India's macroeconomic stability and made the country an attractive global investment destination. The Government of India has undertaken multiple policy interventions over the last few years to fast-track grounding of foreign investments across sectors. As a result of these efforts, India witnessed the highest ever inflow of foreign direct investment worth $84 billion during 2021-22. This FDI came into 57 sectors from 101 countries and across 30 states and UTs. Real GDP growth across FY 21-22 was an unprecedented 8.7% and absolute GDP value in FY 21-22 reached $3.1 trillion and recent estimates point towards a $5 trillion economy by 2025. Despite global headwinds, India's aggregate demand conditions have remained stable, buoyed by simplified access to bank credit as well as continued consumer and business confidence, lending credence to India's economic resilience. A high-level delegation from the Indian side, coupled with senior state government representation, will be present at WEF 2023 to strengthen India's position as an important stakeholder shaping the global narrative. Over the course of 5 days, Invest India will be organizing several roundtables, panel discussions and fireside chats to deliberate on policy action and investment support in renewable energy, sustainability, infrastructure, healthcare and medical devices, startups, trade and logistics, technology, institutional investments and so on. 14 sessions would be held on agendas such as building Unicorns 2.0, India's continued journey to be an entrepreneurial destination, Europe for the Indian Business Corridor, catalyzing investments in sustainable infrastructure, Life with Paramayar, CEO, Niti Aayog, opportunities in R&D and innovation in life sciences, building resilience in the global electronic and semiconductor supply chain, fourth consultation of the IPAs of G20 and guest countries, enhancing India's startup ecosystem, technology, innovation and inclusion, India's growth story, riding the wave, act forward, where women's leadership stands today and where it is going, building India's digital economy, tech-powered governance, Swiss India innovation collaboration, Swiss precision with Indian scale, future of fintech, gender-based governance and channeling investments to fuel a green India. Senior Indian ministers would be attending the WEF 2023 at Davos. Mr. Ashwini Vaishnav, Minister for Railways, Communications, Electronics and Information Technology, Mrs. Smriti Irani, Minister of Women and Child Development and Minority Affairs, Mr. R.K. Singh, Power Minister, and Mr. Mansukh Mandavia, the Health Minister, would be representing India. The Chief Ministers who would be attending the WEF meeting include Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath, Maharashtra Chief Minister Eknath Shinde, and Karnataka Chief Minister Basavaraj S. Bommai. Top Indian entrepreneurs and business leaders Gautam Adani, Sanjeev Bajaj, Kumar Mangalam Birla, N. Chandrasekharan, Nadir Godrej, Ajit Gulabchand, Sajjan Jindal, Sunil Mittal, Roshni Nadar Malhotra, Nandan Nilekani, Adar Poonawala, Rishad Premji and Sumant Sinha are likely to be present. This year marks 36 years of the forum's collaboration with India. Over the course of the forum meeting, Invest India has organized several roundtables, panel discussions and fireside chats to deliberate on policy action and investment support in renewable energy, sustainability, infrastructure, healthcare and medical devices, startups, trade and logistics, technology and institutional investments.
Union Minister of State for Health Bharti Praveen Pawar said India's aim during the G20 presidency is to accelerate efforts towards increasing the pace of implementation of value-based healthcare and achieving the goal of universal health coverage across the world. The minister was speaking at the inaugural session on medical value travel on the sidelines of the first Health Working Group meeting under the G20 India presidency in Thiruvananthapuram in Kerala on Thursday. Mrs. Pawar highlighted India's delivery of anti-COVID drugs to 101 countries through the Vaccine Maitri mission. The minister also said that the G20 presidency is a great opportunity for India in this period when the country has entered into a golden age. On the second day of the G20 Health Working Group meeting, discussions on international travel for medical purposes and the synergy of various treatment methods, including Ayurveda, were held on Thursday. The three-day G20 Health Working Group meeting will conclude on Friday. A sensitization workshop on G20 environment and climate sustainability will be held in Bengaluru on Friday. The stakeholders involving the forest departments of all the states, associated international organizations, knowledge partners, local influential persons, media and community representatives will take part in this workshop. It will deliberate on the identified themes and sub-themes listed for discussion during the first G20 Working Group meeting on environment and climate sustainability. The first meeting of the G20 Working Group on Environment and Climate Sustainability will be held in Bengaluru from the 9th to 11th of February. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has reached Colombo on the second leg of his two-nation visit to Maldives and Sri Lanka. The visit to the island nation comes at a crucial time when Sri Lanka has been making efforts to obtain an extended fund facility from the International Monetary Fund. Dr. Jaishankar is scheduled to meet the Sri Lankan leadership and hold discussions with Foreign Minister Ali Sabri. Dr. Jaishankar's visit to Maldives marked a significant milestone in strengthening the bilateral relations of the two countries. 3 significant MOUs were also finalized during the visit. The External Affairs Ministry has strongly condemned the reported vandalism of Hindu temples in Australia. In a media briefing on Thursday, External Affairs Ministry spokesperson Arindam Bagchi said India is aware that a couple of temples have recently been vandalized in Australia. He said India strongly condemns these actions, and these actions have also been publicly condemned by Australian leaders, community leaders and religious associations there. Mr. Bagchi informed that India's Consulate General in Melbourne has taken up the matter with the local police and requested expeditious investigation against the perpetrators. He mentioned that the matter has also been taken up with the Australian government.
We strongly condemn such actions. These actions have also been publicly condemned by Australian leaders, community leaders and I think religious associations there. Our Consulate General in Melbourne has taken up the matter with the local police. We have requested expeditious investigation, action against the perpetrators and of course measures to prevent such incidents in future. The matter has also been taken up with the Australian government both in Canberra and in New Delhi, and we are looking forward to the action that we have requested.
On the relations with Pakistan, Mr. Bagchi said India has always wanted normal neighbourly relations with Pakistan, but there should be a conducive atmosphere without any terror, hostility or violence. On listing 4 Pakistani terrorists as international terrorists in the United Nations Security Council sanctions list, Mr. Bagchi said India will continue to push the matter.
हमने कहा है कि हम हमेशा नॉर्मल नेबरली रिलेशंस चाहते हैं पाकिस्तान के साथ, पर एक कंड्यूसिव एटमॉस्फेयर होनी चाहिए जिसमें टेरर या हॉस्टिलिटी या वायलेंस न हो.
Mr. Bagchi said that the 3rd Atal Bihari Vajpayee Memorial Lecture will be held on the 23rd of this month. He said External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar will preside over the event. New Delhi has condemned the BBC documentary on Prime Minister Narendra Modi, terming it as a propaganda piece and an effort to push the discredited narrative. The External Affairs Ministry said the bias, lack of objectivity and continuing colonial mindset are blatantly visible. While briefing the media in New Delhi today, External Affairs Ministry's spokesperson Arindam Bagchi said this documentary is a reflection on the agency and individuals that are prompting this narrative. He expressed wonder over the purpose of this exercise and the agenda behind it. India and Oman have reaffirmed their commitment to the close strategic partnership between the two countries. During the 8th India-Oman Strategic Dialogue in New Delhi on Wednesday, both sides highlighted the high priority accorded by the leadership of both countries to further enhance their bilateral strategic ties based on trust and mutual respect. The dialogue was led by Deputy National Security Advisor Vikram Misri and Oman's Secretary General of the National Security Council, Major General Idris Abdul Rahman Al-Kindi. Discussions were held on a wide range of issues of mutual interest, including bilateral strategic and security cooperation, defense and regional security. Both sides reiterated the importance of preserving maritime safety and security in the region. They condemned all forms and manifestations of terrorism and underscored the need to work collectively to fight this menace. Both sides also reiterated the importance of the strategic dialogue as an important mechanism of bilateral cooperation between India and Oman. The 9th strategic dialogue between the two countries will be held in Oman next year. India has stressed on reforms of the multilateral institutions at the United Nations during an informal meeting of the General Assembly. Noting that the reform of the multilateral institutions is an urgent imperative, India said that these should focus on giving voice to the concerns of the developing world while reflecting the realities of the 21st century. Speaking at the UN briefing, India's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ruchira Kamboj, said New Delhi remains concerned about the increasing fragmentation of the international landscape. She also said that as the chair of the G20, India will continue to engage proactively with the Global South, refactoring the priorities of the South into the G20 process.
India has recently organized the highly successful Voice of the Global South Summit virtually. A total of 125 countries participated in the meetings. Our Prime Minister personally drove the opening and closing segments of the summit. A number of new initiatives have flowed from these segments as concrete outcomes reflective of our commitment to deliver on the priorities of the Global South. I wish to assure that India looks forward to working closely with all partners of the United Nations, convinced as we are that in order to find solutions to any of the global challenges, the Global North and the Global South need to come together.
Kamboj said that the world is perhaps witnessing the most difficult phase since the Second World War, and it is not an exaggeration but a reality. She said that the road ahead is challenging and urged the member countries to work collectively in a collaborative manner to find sustainable solutions to the development challenges. This is All India Radio giving you the world news. New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern will step down next month. Ms. Ardern will also not contest general elections set for 14th of October. The Prime Minister told reporters that 7th of February will be her last day in office. She said that it had been a tough 5.5 years as Prime Minister and that she was only human and needed to step aside. Ms. Ardern said she had taken time to consider her future over the summer break. Ms. Jacinda Ardern became the youngest female head of the government in the world when she was elected Prime Minister in 2017, aged 37. The ruling New Zealand Labour Party will vote for a new leader, which will take place on Sunday. The party leader will be the Prime Minister until the next general election. Ports, Shipping and Waterways Minister Sarbanand Sonowal said the whole world is now looking towards India for its leadership in almost all sectors. He said under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, people are witnessing great changes, particularly in the infrastructure and policy areas. He was speaking during the signing of the Memorandum of Agreement between the Indian Ports Association and Research and Information System for Developing Countries for setting up a Centre for Maritime Economy and Connectivity in New Delhi on Thursday. The minister said research and information systems for developing countries should also offer their expertise in policy formulations so that policy decisions can be implemented by the government. India has produced a record over 5,000 lakh metric tons LMT of sugarcane in the sugar season 2021-22. About 3,574 LMT of sugarcane was crushed to around 394 LMT of sugar. 36 LMT of sugar out of this was diverted to ethanol production and 359 LMT of sugar was produced by sugar mills. During 2021-22, the revenue of more than 20,000 crore rupees was made by sugar mills from the sale of ethanol. During the sugar season between October and September 2021-22, India has emerged as the world's largest producer and consumer of sugar. It also became the world's second largest exporter of sugar after Brazil. Pacific Island Forum (PIF) has said that Pacific Island nations have urged Japan to postpone the release of water from the Fukushima nuclear power plant due to concerns that fisheries will be contaminated. The Japanese government announced last week that water from the destroyed Fukushima nuclear power plant could be released into the sea this spring or summer, as the alarmed island nations are still dealing with the fallout from decades of nuclear testing. After treatment, Japan approved the release of more than 1 million tons of water from the site into the ocean in April 2021. The PIF, a regional bloc of 17 island nations, claims that releasing the water will have a significant impact on fishing grounds that are vital to island economies and supply up to half of the world's tuna fish. During the World Economic Forum, Martin Wolf, chief economics commentator at the Financial Times, said, "Over the next 10 to 20 years, it is overwhelmingly certain that India will be the fastest growing economy."
Since the 70s, and it underlines what I think is a very important point, is that over the next 10 or 20 years, it's pretty well overwhelmingly certain that India will be the fastest growing of the big economies, and it's very big. So I think anybody who hasn't in business and in other areas thought very, very seriously about what India will mean is really missing the point about where we are in the world.
And now a report from the business desk.
At the stock markets, the Sensex at the Bombay Stock Exchange fell 187 points or 0.3% to close at 60,858. The Nifty at the National Stock Exchange shed 58 points or 0.3% to 18,108. Among other global stock markets, Asian markets ended mixed. So Japan's Nikkei 225 index dropped 1.5%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng index shed 0.1%. And Singapore's Straits Times index fell 0.4%. But China's Shanghai Composite Index and South Korea's Kospi index rose 0.5% each. In Europe, London's FTSE 100 had lost 0.6%. France's CAC 40 had dropped 0.7%, and Germany's DAX had declined 0.8% in intraday trade. Global crude oil futures fell by about 1% today, extending losses from the previous day as a surprise jump in U.S. crude stocks weighed on the market, along with fears of a recession that were heightened by disappointing U.S. retail sales and output data. So Brent crude oil futures lost 65 cents to trade at $84.33 a barrel. The U.S. crude futures declined 79 cents to $78.69 a barrel. Back home, gold fell 52 rupees to 56,475 rupees per 10 grams at Delhi's bullion market today amid weak global cues. Silver lost 850 rupees to 68,500 rupees per kilo. And at the forex market, the rupee depreciated 12 paise to 81 rupees and 36 paise against the dollar. Gaurang Dhawan Lal for World News, All India Radio.
In Afghanistan, at least 70 people have died from cold amidst a freezing winter that swept the country. Afghanistan's State Ministry for Disasters Management said that over 70,000 livestock have also died due to the harsh weather, reported Tolo News. According to the report, people have termed the freezing weather conditions as unprecedented while blaming poverty and unemployment for rise in casualties. The Afghans are finding it difficult to get a job due to freezing winters, making it difficult for them to take care of their families. In the FIH Hockey Men's World Cup, India defeated Wales 4-2 at the Kalinga Stadium in Bhubaneswar on Thursday. At half-time, India was leading 2-0. Earlier, while England beat Spain 4-0, the Netherlands trounced Chile 14-0. Malaysia beat New Zealand 3-2. In points table of Pool D, England is in the first position and India in second position with 7 points each. Both the teams have played 3 games and won 2 each. But due to goals difference, England occupies the top position. Spain has 3 points and Wales is yet to score points. In table tennis, India's mixed double duo of G. Satyan and Manika Batra stormed into the WTT contenders semi-final with a 3-0 win over world number 9 Spanish pair of Maria Xiao and Alvaro Robles in Doha on Thursday. Continuing its splendid run, the Indian duo took less than 24 minutes to wrap up the proceedings 11-9, 11-9, 11-5 and set up a last 4 clash against Lim Jong-woo and Shin Yubin, the world number 20 duo from Korea. Satyan and Manika had won a silver at the WTT contender Nova Gorica in Slovenia last November. In badminton men's singles, India's Lakshya Sen lost to Denmark's Rasmus Gemke in a round of 16 fixture to exit the India Open tournament at New Delhi on Thursday. Lakshya dominated the early proceedings and won the first game 21-16, but the Dane fought back bravely in the second game 21-15, setting up a nervy final game where he won 21-18. Women's singles challenge also ended with Saina Nehwal's defeat in the second round. Nehwal went down fighting 9-21, 12-21 against reigning Olympic champion and world number 3 Chen Yufei to suffer her third loss in succession against the Chinese shuttler. The Sports Ministry has sought an explanation from the Wrestling Federation of India (WFI) on allegations of sexual harassment by top wrestlers against WFI President Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh. Taking cognizance of the protests by some wrestlers in New Delhi and their serious charges against the WFI President and coaches, the Ministry has directed the WFI to furnish a reply within the next 72 hours. National Aeronautics and Space Administration (NASA) has awarded $425 million to Boeing Company for the agency's Sustainable Flight Demonstration Project. Under the project, Boeing will work with NASA to build, test and fly a full-scale demonstrator aircraft and validate technologies aimed at lowering emissions. The space agency said that over the next 7 years, NASA will invest $425 million, while Boeing and its partners will contribute the remainder of the agreement funding, estimated at about $725 million. Now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. The Global Times writes, China urges Japan to stop irresponsible plan of dumping nuclear-contaminated water amid wide criticism. The Washington Post reports U.S. Defense Chief in Berlin for talks as Germany stalls on tank deliveries. The Guardian also writes, France hit by strikes over plan to raise retirement age to 64. The Straits Times writes, Prime Minister Anwar launches new slogan for Malaysia, promises to be clean and help everyone. Wall Street Journal writes, Iraq economy reels as U.S. moves against money flow to Iran. The Financial Times writes, South African business turned to diesel and solar panels as Eskom crisis deepens. And a quick look at the headlines once again. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi unveils developmental projects worth about 50,000 crore rupees in Karnataka and Maharashtra. New Delhi is taking synchronized policy action to develop low-carbon ecosystem, says new and renewable energy minister R.K. Singh at the World Economic Forum in Davos. New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern resigns. New Delhi condemns and takes up vandalism of Hindu temples with Australian government. India at UN says reform of multilateral institutions is urgently required. India and Oman to work together to fight menace of terrorism. And in FIH Hockey Men's World Cup, India defeat Wales 4-2 at Kalinga Stadium in Bhubaneswar. And now, before we end, let us listen to Mahatma Gandhi's favorite bhajan Vaishnav Jan by artists from Ecuador. And with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.